Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to KSJE On the Road. I'm Scott Michlin. We are once again coming to you from the Farmington Civic Center, where behind me are some of the rehearsals going on for the production of Spamalot, which opens next weekend here at the Farmington Civic Center. We're going to be talking with Randy West and some of the actors from Spamalot when we come back with KSJE On the Road right after this.
At Presbyterian Medical Services, our purpose is you.
KSJE On the Road is supported by the San Juan County Communications Authority, providing essential communications and information to first responders throughout San Juan County. Is a 911 telecommunicator career right for you? Find out more at 911 Save a Life. Welcome back to the Farmington Civic Center. Once again, I'm Scott Michlin, and I am joined by the one and only Randy West, who is here, the supervisor of the Farmington Civic Center with Four Corners Musical Theater Company. Randy, thank you for letting us come down to rehearsals.
It's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
There's magic happening behind us.
There is indeed magic going on.
Right. This is Spamalot. It is a Monty Python inspired production.
They say it's lovingly ripped off from the Monty Python movie.
Okay.
So if you know the Monty Python movie, almost all of the iconic moments are in this musical, wrapped in a piece of musical theater written by Eric Idle, who obviously is one of the core company of Monty Python, and blessed by all the Monty Python players. I actually saw this on Broadway. I didn't catch the original cast. David Hyde Pierce had just left as Sir Robin, but I saw everybody else in the original cast, and it was a real interest. They were successful in blending the Monty Python humor in really what is, when you come to think of it, a spoof of a Broadway musical. So everything is a little tongue-in-cheek, you know.
Right. And that's kind of the British way as well, is it not?
Right. We were just talking about the British humor, which, if you think about the slow boil, or the Gene Wilder was always famous for his slow boil, that you'd see him get angry and angrier and angrier and explode. There's a sense of that in the British comedy timing, that we are so tight in the way we edit and cut things now that it seems like we do boom, 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 payoff. And the Monty Python people go boom, 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 and keep going, and keep going, and keep going, and the payoff. And part of the payoff is that slow burn that they do, that there's some character that's getting so upset as they keep going around the barn. And it's wonderful to kind of celebrate that signature comedy style of Monty Python.
And there's a little subtlety to it as well, is there not? With some of these things that we might not get if we're not paying attention?
Well, some of it is so blatant it would poke you right in the eye, and some of it is subtle in the way that if you're willing to go with it, there are things woven through this show that spoofs Monty Python, that certainly spoofs Broadway, that they're very critical of the caste system in England that was certainly in place during the time of when you were either a knight or a serf or worse. Yeah.
Right.
And there's a lot of that's blended in this. But Monty Python did social comedy. I mean, they poked the bear.
Yes, they did.
A lot.
That's true. And so bringing it here, as I mentioned to you when I sat down, it looks like a pretty big cast.
It is a big cast. We're sitting right there, I think 31. And that's a combination of some really talented locals. And then it's our core company is mostly national talent, but they've been here so often that if you've come to see our shows, Sean, who plays a lot, who was Daddy Warbucks in Annie last summer, was the Major General in Pirates. He is Arthur. And Matt, who plays a lot of our shows, he's Lancelot. Tanner, who was actually, Tanner does a lot of work with us, but he was Pirelli in Sweeney Todd.
Right.
But he was also, I've done many Annies, and he was one of the most interesting Drakes, who is the butler in Annie. He was funny, but he also had this real connection to Annie, who is played by Zeta. Zeta Lyle is from Durango. She's doing the whole summer with us. She's here in the ensemble. She's the youngest member of our core company. Zeta, this is her third summer with us, and we elected last summer to put her in the core company. She's 16, so she's our baby, but she's in the ensemble for Spamalot, and then when we move out to Into the Woods, she's playing Little Red Riding Hood in Into the Woods. So we have a core of people that we build around per show. We have certain people that are just jobbed in per show, and we cast a healthy amount of local people and regional, which would include Durango. Mm-hmm. And each show is like that. The 30 people that we have here, because it is a spoof of Broadway, they do the same kind of building on building that they do in their comedy sketches. They do that in their musical numbers, that it starts out kind of small and then it gets bigger, and then when you think it's the biggest it can get, they suddenly are tap dancing. And then they add one more layer to that, and then boom, they pay it off. So many of the numbers are making fun of, or I would prefer to say having fun with, the structure of a Broadway musical. So there are some really big, the size of the cast is about the same size of the cast as we had for Music Man, but it feels bigger because the numbers are more in your face than Music Man. Music Man is very fourth wall, and they play their own little story, and it's very emotional, and it's very gleeful, and it's very fun, but it's kind of them, and you're invited into their world. Monty Python is much more, here we are, and now we're going to tap dance, and now we're going to end the number, ta-da. And it's that kind of, it pays off to the English music halls,
right,
and to our vaudeville,
right,
both of those things, which were pretty yaka, and then in the middle of that, you take an awareness of where Broadway is now. So it's very clever. You're right, it's got many layers if you want to go there. If you want to just come for the physical comedy and the fact that it's big and raucous, you can certainly do that too.
And they insult the French.
And then, boy, did the French not come off well in this. But the French and the English, they have their own thing to sort out.
For a long time.
And, if you know the original movie, the French taunter is taunting the English, and the English are not necessarily having their best day trying to survive the French.
Very true. Now, I want to pick up on something that you said, because you said that Zeta Lyle is back here cast, and you had her cast as Annie, of course, and now you have her cast as Little Red Riding Hood. That sounds like typecasting to me.
Well, it's what it is, well, a little bit. But she's got
and she's
gorgeous
very talented
red hair.
too. Yes.
But she is an exceptionally serious talent. Sarah Harkness, who is our choreographer, who helps me put these musicals together, we met when she was the most serious ballet student I'd ever met in my life when she was 14. And by the time she was 16, she was a dance captain for me. And the show that she dance captain was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which we're going to talk about in a minute. She is now, not only did she help me put it together when she was 16, we are reconceiving it together as the last show of the summer. And she now she's a core member, and she helps me stage the musicals and choreographs everything with me. So it's great to come full circle. Same thing, believe it or not, with Shannon Cochran, who is singing the Lady of the Lake in this, and she's also singing Cinderella in Into the Woods. We met when she was 14 in Fairfield, Iowa, when we were opening up the Sondheim Center there, and we did Into the Woods together, and she was Rapunzel. We did Hairspray, and she was Tracy, and then she went off and got her undergraduate in opera, and then she got her graduate in the Cincinnati Conservatory, and now she's Dr. Cochran, coming back, and she sang Marion the Librarian last summer, and she was Mabel in Pirates, and she has this glorious voice with this big top end and this lush, warm bottom end on it. But in this, she actually does Celine Dion singing up in the stratosphere, and she and Sean actually do a little scat singing together, which you don't always hear. But that's Monty Python making fun of about every voice styling you could do.
Very true. Well, we talked to Shannon and Matt before we sat down with you, so let's listen to a little bit of what they had to say about their involvement in the show this year.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll listen to that right now here on KSJE. Joining me now to talk a little bit about their parts in the upcoming performance of Spamalot. Matt and Shannon are here, part of the Four Corners Musical Theater Company. Thank you both for joining me today. And so, Shannon, let me talk to you a little bit about your part in this performance and tell us a little bit about it.
So I'm playing the Lady of the Lake. She is the trope of the traditional diva in a musical, and you don't really get her in Monty Python's Holy Grail, but you get her in this, so it's fun to see her sort of pull all the knights along and get them to where they need to go throughout. But she has a really awesome number in the second act, and she just gets to be a little feisty, which is fun.
Very good. And have you done this performance before, been in Spamalot, or is this your first time?
No, this is my very first time playing the Lady of the Lake, and she's kind of been a dream role of mine, and never really knew if I would ever get the chance to do it. So I'm very excited to get to do it in Farmington and at the Civic Center.
Very good. And tell us a little bit about some of the other shows you've been a part of, because you are no stranger to Farmington or the Civic Center.
Yes, I think the very first show I did out here was Gene Kelly's Lost Musical. I was in that, and then I came back for the summer and did Music Man. I played Marion, and then Pirates of Penzance, I was Mabel, and then I was Joanna and Sweeting Todd. I did the Celebrate Sondheim, and now I'm back. So done quite a few shows here. It's always a pleasure to come back and be in Farmington.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And Matt, let me turn to you a little bit about your part in Spamalot and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I played Lancelot as well as a few other characters. One of the good things about this show is we get to do a whole bunch of different roles. It's very Monty Python-esque. Like if you watch Life of Brian or, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, you see, Eric Idle and, all those guys playing multiple roles, which the show is set up exactly the same way. So you'll see a lot of the knights being many multi-roles. And this show kind of tracks the Holy Grail. And I get to play four of my five favorite parts in that movie, so I'm so excited.
Very good. And you're no stranger either to the Farmington Civic Center or the Four Corners Musical Theater Company. Talk to us a little bit about some of your past roles.
I was actually a part of the first show that Four Corners Musical Theater ever did, which was Musical of Musicals, the musical. And I've been coming back ever since. I came back to restart the program with Mamma Mia out at Sandstone. And then I was in Gene Kelly's Lost Musical. I was also part of last season's Music Man and Pirates of Penzance. We did Celebrate Sondheim not too long ago. And I come back here. I love this town. It's a beautiful, beautiful place to do theater.
Very good. Very good for both of you. Talk to me a little bit about any challenges of doing Monty Python or doing kind of the British humor and things along that line. Are there things that you're working on timing-wise or things like that? Or does the lines just kind of sell themselves, and I don't know. As an actor, what do you say? What do you think?
I think the fact that I am a character that wasn't in the movies, I have a little bit more room to kind of make it my own. But I know timing in comedy is actually pretty choreographed in times. You have to really make sure you're landing everything and everything is going with the flow. So it definitely is something that there is space that you can ad-lib play around, but you also have to be really dialed in to your partners in the scene.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like comedy is kind of a music of its own kind. It has a beat, it has a rhythm, and the brilliance behind Monty Python is that they hit you with one joke and then they hit you with another one and another one and another one. And This show is one of my favorite shows just because it's a movie that I grew up with as a kid. So getting to actually perform it in front of people and not just my parents is going to be great.
Very good. And for both of you, again, will you two be here all summer, or is this your one performance? Will you be here for the other shows that are planned?
I'm here for this show, and then I'm playing Cinderella in Into the Woods.
Out of Sandstone.
Yes, out at Sandstone, which will be a beautiful, beautiful place to do Into the Woods.
What about you?
I'm here for Spamalot, obviously. I'm here as the baker in Into the Woods, which is another one of my absolute favorite musicals. And I'll be doing Pharaoh in Joseph.
Okay.
So I'm here all season.
Busy summer for you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Some of the talented actors, part of this Joining me now to show, talk a little bit
Spamalot.
about
We
their
here at the
parts
Farmington
in the
Civic Center,
upcoming performance.
talking to some of the actors, and Randy West, who is the supervisor here at the Farmington Civic Center and the brains behind all this activity that we're seeing here. And you've got stuff planned all summer too, right?
We are going all summer. Spamalot opens on the 8th, so we play Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 7:30, and then we do a 2 o'clock matinee, and then we come back the next weekend, and the same schedule. We play Thursday through Saturday, 7:30, and then we close on a 2 o'clock matinee. But we've already started in the middle week. We start on Into the Woods, which Spamalot has 2 weeks here at the Civic Center, and then we go out. We open. Well, there is in the middle week. We're having Outrageous is here,
Right.
and they're doing a camp that they're, last time I checked, there were still some slots in it. It's a 5-day camp with the entire company of Outrageous. They performed here a couple of times. They play live music, they sing, they dance, they paint live paintings in front of the audience. So it's really a blending of the creative and the performing arts, which is why I like it so much. And they're working with local people, and we're paying for the camp out of some Civic Center money and some Heather McGoy money, which is money for kids to learn the arts here in Farmington.
So the camp is free to kids.
The camp
then.
is free. You just have to sign up,
Okay.
and then you do the camp, and then on that Saturday night, they're doing a performance here at the Civic Center at 7:30.
Okay.
So that week after we close Spamalot is Outrageous, and then coming right up after that, we're going into the Freedom Days weekend,
Right.
which on
4th
the
of July.
Friday, on the 4th of July, instead of doing the parade, they're doing a big concert here at the Civic Center Plaza with Colin Ray,
Right.
the pretty famous country western star, and that also is free to the public.
That's right.
So that's on the 4th of July here, and then we jump right out, and on July 6th, we open Into the Woods out at Sandstone. That's the outdoor amphitheater performance for the summer. We play the entire month of July, so we're Thursday through Sunday, all at 8. Even the Sunday shows are at 8 because we're in an outdoor amphitheater. So we have to
Before
wait.
8. It's
Yes.
hot.
Well, we also have to wait for God to allow us to have theater lighting.
Well, that's true, too.
And so that
Yes.
we really can't start before 8. So Thursday through Sunday at 8 o'clock for 4 weeks. We close on we close on July 30th, I think.
That
Is
sounds
right?
about right.
So
That sounds about right.
It's the 6th. Is it the 30th?
Let's see. Let me click
Yeah,
through.
just checking.
Let's click through because that's. we need to go
keep
to
me
the-
honest.
No, let's see.
So the 6th,
July. Sunday is 30th.
the 30th.
So you're right. See?
It's
There you go.
Thursday through Sunday for 4 weeks.
Right.
And then we close on July 30th at 8 o'clock out at Sandstone. And then back here to the Civic Center. And then in August, we've been rehearsing this summer with a whole group of locals, including, it's at least 30, maybe 30 plus young people that are all in Joseph. So that's the biggest cast of the summer. That's probably pushing 50, maybe a little more in my version of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which is kind of funny. Those of you that know me, my big career jump was when I was invited by Stephen Sondheim to work on his production of Merrily out in Phoenix. And at the end of that, he sent me to San Francisco and recommended me to theaters, which is how I got a career in San Francisco. Well, when I was fairly new there, a conservatory from the East Bay came up, and it was the time of the hyphenate. Everybody was the director choreographer: Bob Fosse, Tom
Right.
Toon, Michael Bennett. Well, believe it or not, it's hard to believe, but back then I was the director choreographer, and they asked me to come in and do that for one of their shows in the East Bay. And I said I'd be happy to if we could agree on a show. And they said, well, we're thinking about doing the new version of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Now, you have to understand, I was like 28 years old. I was a little filled on myself with the Sondheim thing. And I said, well, you know, I'm kind of a Sondheim guy. I really don't do Weber. And they said, well, would you listen to it? So I listened to it over the weekend. And I came back in and I said, well, you know, there really isn't an original musical thought in this whole show, which I will tell you after having done it my whole career is basically true. And I said, but I can assign a different Broadway choreographer style to each one of the spoofs. I'll do the jazz number in Bob Fosse. I'll do the country number in Tommy Tune. And I came up with 14 different Broadway choreographers' styles that I could do in my version of Joseph. And they just basically said, yes, crazy boy, if you need to spoof a bunch of Broadway choreographers to be happy, do whatever you want. So what I created was a really eclectic dance show, and it played at that conservatory for 2 full runs. And it ended up being so popular that for about 5 years, my version of Joseph was somewhere in either Northern or Southern California pretty consistently. So it's the most done show that I've ever helped create, including a production at Chico City Light Opera, which is where I met Sarah, who was my dance captain for that show. And then we're recreating a new version of it, still spoofing 14 different Broadway choreographers here in August with a youth ensemble of about 33 and an adult ensemble that's really spaced between locals, regional, and nationals. Sarah Hendrickson, whose mother and father own the theater company, which is the company from where we rent all of our costumes, and that's in Upland, California. Their daughter, Sarah, was the lead in the national tour of Margaritaville, and since then, she was also the newspaper reporter in a very successful production of Newsies in LA, and then also she was Beauty in Beauty and the Beast. So she's having this big career run, and in the middle of it, I said, Sarah, come be my narrator in Joseph. So she's coming in just for Joseph as our narrator, but a really tight group of professionals dancing in all these dance styles, wrapped in all these locals. So that's 2 weeks in August here. So that's the full scope of the summer.
Busy. Well, nonstop, it sounds like to me.
We just keep going.
And so again, it's Spamalot here at the Civic Center.
Yes, opening next Thursday.
Okay, Outrageous will then be in right
and
after.
Next after that.
And then out at Lions Wilderness Park Amphitheater is when
From
you
the
will...
6th of July clear through
The end of
Thursday
July.
through Sunday, clear through July 30th, and then back
And I'll be
here.
into the woods,
right.
outside, which
And
makes
then
sense.
back here for Joseph for 2 weeks in August.
Wow, there you go. Okay. And a lot of these people, most that we see in Spamalot will be back in these other performances too. As
Many
their
of
schedules
them are
allow.
hired for all three.
Right?
That's right.
Okay, very good. And then you have more coming, and I know we'll talk about that probably for the fall. But
We
I know
might
you have
be
more up
doing.
your sleeve.
We're doing our Halloween musical again that we've been doing the last 3 years, and because there's a total
Otherwise
of
known as
clips-
the Scott Michlin birthday musical.
That's right.
But yes,
you
thank
always
you.
come.
I do.
But this year in October, what do we have? We have a total eclipse of the sun that's going to be very visible in Farmington.
Oh, you mean an actual? That's not a
We're
performance.
really
That's not a
having-
production. That's an
So-
actual
and
celestial
because of that,
thing.
we're doing Little Shop of Horrors because that's set off by a total eclipse of the sun. And we're doing that here in October as our Halloween musical.
What could go wrong?
Well, everything.
could go
But
wrong?
hopefully not. I will tell you, we are having the best time coming out of COVID with great groups of talent that we're still so thrilled to get to share a musical theater live with a live audience. And I tell them, and I will tell you, if you haven't been part of a Farmington audience, come do it. We create the greatest group of people that want to participate in musical theater that come and see us, and you are near and dear to us.
Well, and I think if you know anyone in town who has been to a production here and ask them about it, they will tell you about the quality and about the enjoyable evening that they had when they came to see a show here at the Civic Center. So
We
I
try
hear
to
that a lot.
celebrate the fact we get to do live musical theater here in Farmington, and we're a little bit of what is defining the cultural being that is Farmington. And we've come a long ways, and we've involved everything from education. We have classes in July that you can, from our academy, that we're using the people that are coming in for Into the Woods to teach in the month of July. That's on our website if you want to come study with any of these people behind me. They're all teaching in July here. So there's an education thing, a performance thing, and just kind of a cultural thing.
A lot of things.
A lot of things.
A lot of things, for sure. Well, Randy West, thank you very much for joining me today to talk about Spamalot. We're looking forward to seeing it on stage.
Mr. Scott Michlin, we can't tell you how much you and your radio station mean to us here at Four Corners Musical Theater.
Well,
thank you for the support.
You bet. We love supporting the arts, and this is a big part of it. So
thank you.
Thank you for what you do. Randy West, my guest from the Farmington Civic Center here on KSJE On the Road.